Welcome back, everybody, to the This Day podcast. This is your friend Megan, and I am so excited that you would choose to join us for a few minutes today on the podcast. Today, on this episode, we have artist, songwriter, and new friend Natasha Owens hopping on the podcast to share about her ministry, her faith, and how that all blends together to bring about new projects that she's been working on. We're so excited to have her on and to share about what God has placed on her heart and her journey. So, after a word from our sponsors, check out the latest episode available now. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the This Day podcast. My name is Megan, and I'm so excited that you would take time out of your day to join us for the podcast. I want to take a minute to thank one of our incredible sponsors, BetterHelp. BetterHelp is an incredible tool that you can use to get the help that you need for your mental health, because we all know that our minds are important to us. The Bible talks about renewing our minds. So we need to renew our minds daily. And if you are somebody that struggles with your mental health, or you know somebody that struggles with your mental health, you can get professionally licensed help with their round-the-clock therapy. They even offer Christian therapists to help you. If you are going through a hard time, you can use our code in the show notes below to get the help that you need today. Check them out. Well, Natasha, welcome to the podcast. And we're just so excited to have you and talk about what is happening in your story and in your life and all that God has you doing. So let's start in with who you are, what you've been up to. So tell us a little bit about you.
Well, my name's Natasha Owens, and I started in this music world probably 13, 14 years ago. My dad passed away cleaning his guns, sitting at a table, and he died at 58 years old, 15 years ago. So life as I knew it was gone. I down spiraled into a deep depression. And my pastor, 6 months into that depression, asked me to be music minister. And I struggled with severe anxiety and didn't think I was equipped and was struggling with depression. I couldn't get out of bed every day. So he asked me to be the music minister, and I said, I have nothing to give. And he kept calling, and he called on a day that I wouldn't be alive today if it wasn't for God and crossing my path exactly when he did and giving me a second chance. And so that's how my professional music career started. That was a training ground for what I started doing professionally, and really didn't want the career because I still struggled with such anxiety that I would rather be a participant, rather be in the crowd or behind the scenes rather than having the spotlight on me. So it was very hard for me to get over depression, anxiety, and learn how to minister. So I started in the contemporary Christian world and was on that journey I've done 7 albums, 4 being in contemporary Christian. We did a Christmas album. And then I did a patriotic album, and that's where everything changed. My direction changed. So I don't know if you want me to continue with that or if you want to ask
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to
questions.
talk about that patriotic album because that kind of set the tone almost for a lot of different things for you. So talk about that patriotic album for a second and just um, what all happened there when that album released. I mean, obviously there was election, there was culture, there was all different, everything was happening at once.
It
But
was. The year was 2020. And, our industry, like every industry, came to a complete halt for a long period of time. And I thought, you know what? Let me take advantage of this time off the road and let me start hitting my bucket list, things that I want to do. So we did a Christmas album, uh, Christmas videos, got all that launched. And I thought, we live in a culture today that, um, they've changed history and they've changed what they've taught our young ones in school. And so history, the way I remember it, I'm proud to be an American, and I'm proud of our veterans. And I was seeing the same type culture come in that we saw in the Vietnam days. And I said, you know what, let's try to show people that freedom is the most expensive thing that we own, and most of us have never earned it. And I'm thankful for I have veterans in my family and friends, and I'm thankful for their sacrifice, not only for them but their families. And so I said, let's do an album that puts a spotlight on how great this country really is with all of its flaws. We're still the lighthouse on the hill. And I want to give back to our vets with the money that we get from that album. So we created a patriotic album. I had crossed in the political world back in 2017. We were a part of President Trump's Faith Initiative team. And so, not really even thinking that this patriotic album would hit on such a social level and such a political level. I had no idea. So I got a lot of pushback from Nashville. I don't live in Nashville, I live in Texas, and I didn't realize that the industry culture was so progressive and um, non conservative values, which is what I have. And so I started getting pushback on this album. You better not put it out. You better not, may want to think twice. You're going to get shunned. And I'm like, it's just a patriotic album.
Yeah.
And so we had written a song called Stand for Life, because I'm pro-life. I'm fighting for the 98% of abortions mainly that are used as birth control. We're losing a
Yeah.
lot of kids. And so, and I'm very non-apologetic. I mean, you don't have to believe the way I believe, but, it was kind of a generic song. It just said, stand for life, stand for the things that God holds dear to his heart, and babies he holds dear. And so, I put it on that patriotic album, even though it wasn't a patriotic song, it was an anthem, and I needed a home for it at that moment. And I said, I'm just going to put it on this album. Little did I know, I got pushed back on the patriotic, but I got pushed back in contemporary Christian for my pro-life song. I was too pro-life. Christian radio is very progressive, at least the ones that, not necessarily the stations, but the promoters that are deciding what you hear on radio, are very, very progressive and opposite of how I feel. And so I got boycotted. And radio stations weren't playing my music, and promoters were firing me off of events, and all because of my pro-life stance. And I was so hurt. My husband had been telling me I need to veer it more into the social world, more into the political world. And I'm like, if I do that, I'm not going to have a home to come back to ministry to in the contemporary Christian world, because that's where my heart was and still
Yeah.
is. I was doing the patriotic album, so I was doing veteran events and military events, and singing the Star Spangled Banner, and but that wasn't really ministry. I loved bringing Jesus and God into a secular world, which is what we're called to do. But it wasn't ministry. I wasn't feeling that ministry with the Star Spangled Banner. So I wanted to go back. And when that happened, when they did that to me, my husband said, Tosh, do you want to be a part of an industry that doesn't stand up for life and gives you a hard time for standing up for the things that you believe in? And I said, you know what? I don't. I really don't care about going back to that genre of music. I don't line up with it. So we kind of threw a stick of dynamite and started hitting things that were very controversial in our world and that we weren't allowed to talk about. So we did our first Trump song that kind of got me on a different platform. It was called Trump Won back in 2023.
Wow.
We were talking about the 2020 election. And that veered me into a little bit more on this patriotic route, but it veered me into more of a political stage, and a Lee Greenwood stage. So anyway, that's kind of what we're doing. We just put out an album that has all the political and social topic songs on it. And I'm finally in a world where I get death threats for the things that I sing about. So I guess I'm singing about the right things, right?
Well, they say if you aren't, in your calling, I was talking to somebody yesterday, and like you are the perfect example for this. When you aren't in your calling, you don't feel that pushback. You don't feel that, tension from the enemy. And I think that's exactly, what you're experiencing, right? Like not feeling that pushback or feeling, obviously, death threats are never a good thing,
Yeah.
right?
Thank
But
you.
um you just know that you stepped into the calling that God's placed you in.
Yeah, I do. I mean, he definitely has me on this calling, and it has been apparent in so many things. Whereas I've been a little hesitant in walking a path, that anxiety comes back. But he showed me that this, for this time in this moment, this is what he wants me to do. And, my journey really started changing track, not in 2020, but more like 2018. We wrote our fourth album for contemporary Christian genre was called Stand, and we wrote that theme song as the title track to that album. um, I was seeing in that time, in that year, that mainly with Virginia, New York allowing full term abortions, I had never heard of a baby at 40 weeks being murdered, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
just it's murder. And they feel the pain and they can live outside of the womb by themselves. I'd never seen that type of evil. And the church was completely silent on that topic and other topics that we were seeing in that year. And I'm like, why is the church towing the line, trying to play it so safe and straddling that fence and not wanting to take a stand for biblical values? And I heard so many pastors and saints say, well, you can't preach politics from the pulpit. And I'm like, well, in the day that we live in, if you just preach the Bible, that right there is too controversial. And that right there is too political and too social. Um, but they were being silent. So we wrote a song called Stand, being a light in the midst of the darkness,
Hmm.
standing up for Christ and for biblical things. And so that's where my whole journey started to change. And I never dreamed that God would illuminate a path. I never dreamed I'd get death threats for one.
Yeah.
Um, but it's been so worth it because, I've had witches coming out of the woodwork casting spells. I've had atheists quoting me scripture. And my husband said, Tosh, when has a song or an artist ever created something to cause tens of thousands of atheists to quote you scripture? And he said, as a body of Christ, you've done your job. You've planted that seed. You've made an atheist and tens of thousands of them open up their Bible and read. And I thought, you know what, God, you have a very funny sense of humor for someone who just wanted to be in the background. But it has been, music is powerful. Music gives hope. Music, an anthem will rally the people around and give them courage to stand up and fight. And so that's what we've been doing. We've hit so many topics from President Trump to the Rhino Republicans. I wanted to put a spotlight on them and show faces on the people who were really going against conservative values. We've hit the demasculation of men and
Mm.
the topic of the nuclear family is so important to God. That's what he created, and we all have our place within that family. And it doesn't mean I have strengths that my husband doesn't have, but I could never compete in a boxing ring with a man or my husband. The woman just doesn't have a muscular body composite for the most part to compete with most
Yeah.
men. And when you see on a world stage in the Olympics, when a woman who has worked her entire life to get there and be beat to a pulp by a biological man and the world cheer, we've got a problem. We've got a huge problem. And where is the women's rights? Where are the feminists? Because I feel like as a woman, my rights are being taken away when my fellow athletes and my fellow women can't accomplish a dream that they're accomplishing because they have a new set of rules and competitors in the sports. And so we wrote a song, and the devil is out for our children too, the identity of our children. If our identity is supposed to be through Christ, so if he can mess that up at a young age, he can grab the heart of those children. And so we've got a war on our families at the moment. We've got a war on our children. And so we did a song, our first cowboy country type song,
Hmm.
um, talking about the demasculation of men in our society and that men can't have babies and all these truths that we know to be true, but we're too afraid to talk about. So I've hit all those topics and more in that last album called That America. And, it's definitely my controversial album. if you want more ministry, you go back to my original four. Every one of those albums was another chapter of my recovery from making it through a trial to rising above to being a warrior and then truly standing in Christ. So I've got just about something out there for everybody. It's taste, I guess.
I love it. Hey, but everybody, one thing I've learned is everybody has a different taste, right?
That's
But
true.
there's not one thing, right, that you can't do that doesn't minister to somebody. So whether it's a patriotic song or whether it's a song that's ministry oriented, related to anxiety, related to depression, related to just simple faith, taking it back to the basics, it's going to reach somebody. So obviously what you do matters. What you do is it's going to speak. Um, but so you talked about different ways that you've seen pushback in what you're doing since you released that America album. What ways have you seen people just come together and start to literally stand for what they believe in?
Well, it really started with the Trump One song.
Yeah.
That was something that was for a time period of 2020. It is a song though that has continued to give people an anthem and a hope. And we put out a remix version on election night.
Wow.
We were part of Trump's Faith Initiative group, and so we saw a President Trump that most people don't get to see, that the media does not allow. I've never known someone to meet him in person and not to like him. He has a very servant's heart, a humility about him that he's always in fight mode and sassy mode. And so you don't always see that. You don't always see the heart of the man. And he has been the most pro-life, pro-Christian, pro-Israel president of my lifetime. And so that right there is the work of Christ, how an imperfect man can be used by a perfect God.
Yeah.
Whether you like him or not, he has secured the rights of Christians more than any president in the past. So, and eh, for instance, he put a faith initiative director in every part of government. He did that in the first part of his administration, and he's doing it now in the second one, to make sure that in every part of government that Christians' rights are being protected, and we are given more rights in every part that would affect every part of our life, and that's huge. That's something that no one's ever done. Um, so anyway, I digress. The Trump One song, at that time, you have to understand in 2022 and 2023, we were not allowed to say it. We were not allowed to question whether that election was stolen, or, at the least something was wrong, right? Just give us
Yeah.
give us facts about how, we went to bed and President Trump was winning. We get up and he's not, and then all these things started coming out. And so my husband kept telling me for 2 years that we need to do this song, and I was too afraid of it. And but the thing that has caused me the most controversy has been the thing that has brought more joy to people and rallied people around the world. I cannot tell you the messages that I have received, the thousands of messages from around the world saying, "We stand with you. America is the only hope. You have to hang on to these values, or the rest of the world is going to be under this one world government. You are our only hope, and Trump is our only hope." And so, to know that a song not only made it worldwide, but I mean, we had millions, hundreds of millions of videos out there of people singing it and chanting it, and I get videos even today of people blaring it on their car with their windows down. And to hear things like President Trump is playing your song still every day on not only Air Force One, but in the White House and at Trump Tower and Mar-a-Lago, and um, just coming in contact every day with someone who, oh my gosh, you're the singer of that song. It has brought so much joy, and the thing that I was the most afraid of. So I'm so glad I did it. And then we've just continued to hit big topics that people sat back and said, "Oh my God, I can't believe you had the bravery to say that. Thank you for saying it." Because when we speak it, we're censored. But
Yeah.
when we sing it, we're not, because I'm covered under a different level of protection, the freedom of expression. And so that's the reason why you hear songs about rape and murder and horrible things, because we're allowed to sing about it. So that's what my husband said. My husband said, we have to hit topics that if they're not allowed to say it, let's give them an anthem so they can sing it. And that has brought a lot of joy to people.
I love it. Well, so how I first heard of you, obviously it was through a couple friends, but I saw a video online this past election. So 2024, I don't want to mess it up, 2024
Yeah.
election night of Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago listening to your song. And
Yeah.
so when you said that, I was like, yep, that's exactly, I'm one of those people. And I just think that is so it's just so crazy the power of one, the power of music, right? The
Right.
power of music, but then just the power that one crazy, crazy opportunity that you took to stand up, right, for what you believed in took, and it took you further than you probably ever thought.
It did, the media when Trump won hit said that I was hotter than Taylor Swift because I knocked her out of first place, which was really funny because I'm old enough to be her mother. And my and all because of my crazy husband, all because and the media deemed me the next Lee Greenwood once he retires. I can walk that path, which means I don't have to assign myself to a genre. I can sing whatever I want to sing, and I'm not bound by rules of a normal genre. So that makes me so happy. Um, but yeah, that night when election night, actually, it was a couple days after that when I saw Siggy from the Desperate Housewives in New Jersey was with President Trump that night. Her and her husband and their Trump's attorney, Alina, and they were sitting in Mar-a-Lago and they were celebrating and singing that song. And he was tapping his hands on the table, doing the drums to it. And I said, well, who would have thought? I mean, by this point, I've sang for many presidents around the world and been invited. I met the president of El Salvador, and Bukele was a big fan of Trump One song. So when I met him last year, we got an invitation through the embassy to his second inauguration to be his guest, and I've gotten to sing for the president of Argentina. It's crazy to think the girl that was so scared to step out is the one that's getting these world opportunities, and like President Trump is having so much joy singing and listening to this song. And so um, I don't know, if I retired today, I would feel fulfilled that I've accomplished a whole lot in my small amount of time in my music career.
Absolutely. Now, what do you hope, right, that when people hear your music, when maybe they're driving down the road and um, a song of yours maybe pops up on a playlist that they're listening to, or a friend recommends a song for them to listen to, what do you hope that people receive when they listen to a song?
I want them to immediately feel joy and happiness and to laugh because, these social songs are very hard to write because they
Mhm.
are one wrong word makes it a parody. And in every song, I want to put a little bit of truth, but I want to put a lightheartedness and fun and just where you just want to start moving and dancing with it. And you kind of lose your stress at that moment. And you start laughing just that when someone we so many days I feel so heavy and so weighted down, and the moment a song comes on, doesn't matter what genre it is. I love 80s music because I was an 80s kid. um, it just brings back those memories and immediately lightheartedness and laughter. And so that's what I want it to do. I don't want somebody to hear the song now and say, "Oh, I can't stand that girl." I want to put something in there that may would change their mind, or just give them a little bit of an open mind too. I want to put truth in those songs. So um, I don't know. I want to bring hope, and I want to bring healing. And if those political songs point people back I've had so many politicians and senators and governors say, I never listened to Christian music. But once I started listening to your music, I went back and now I listen every day, and you help me, you minister to me, and you give those songs give me strength because I feel God in them. And I said, that's our purpose as Christians, to be a light in the midst of the darkness. And who knows what that politician or that person is about to face, that song that they've heard of mine, that Christian song, could bring strength to. And so, in anything that I sing and put out, I want them to feel God, hear God, and not necessarily me. I've done my job if I can bring comfort and happiness and hope and point to a higher power in everything I do, whether it's Christian or not.
That's so well put, so well said. Now, how can people keep up with you? How can they hear, what music you're putting out with and just stay connected with all you're doing?
Well, the main landing page is my website, natashaowensmusic.com. That's natashaowensmusic.com. And you can find, merch, physical product. It will put you out to every one of my social media platforms. I have just about everything now. And anywhere that you find music, whether it's streaming or purchasing it, you can find me. Just Google my name and it will show you, or go to that website, natashaowensmusic.com. And it is a good platform to show you where I'm going to be, what I'm doing, kind of the latest and greatest. And then we're always putting stuff out on social media, from devotional videos to, fun things. And you kind of keep up if you attach yourself to my social media as to what we're doing.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for hopping on the podcast today, Natasha. It has been so wonderful to talk to you and just hear your story all the more. And just thank you for being such a light in a crazy, crazy world.
Crazy world. Well, thank you so much for having me. Hope you have a great weekend, and just appreciate all that you're doing, and for you giving me the opportunity to get my story out to your audience. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. If you want to continue the conversation, check out the Fully Known Devotional, available on Amazon, written by me, myself, and Megan. I hope that you check it out and remember that you are fully known by the God of the universe, the God of a million stars who created you. Check out the devotional today on Amazon. Friend, thank you so much for listening to the podcast today. Be sure to follow Natasha on every social media platform and stay connected to her music. To stay connected with our ministry and all of the incredible things we have coming up, be sure to follow us on all the social media platforms we are on, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I hope you know that you are so loved by the God of the universe.